Cek satu dua. Cek satu.
Tes tes.
Cek satu.
With all due respect, with all due respect, the 7 UICELL committee is issuing this notification as a signal that the event is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, please prepare yourself and take a seat in the designated area.
The Honorable Professor Dr. Haji Gunawan Suryo Putro MHum, Director of University of Muhammadiyah, Professor Dr. Hamka. The Honorable Professor Dr. Nani Solihati MPD, the Vice Rector for Research Service, Publication and Innovation of University of Muhammadiyah, Professor Dr. Hamka. The Honorable Professor Heri Mulyono PhD, the Head of Institute for Scientific Publication, Advancement, Rankings, Partnership, and International Affairs of University of Muhammadiyah, Professor Dr. Hamka. The Honorable Professor Dr. Haji Ade Hikmat MPD, the Director of UHAMKA Graduate School. The Honorable Professor Dr. Abdurrahman Agani MPD, the Director Secretary for Division of Education and Teaching, Research, Community Service, and Quality Assurance of UHAMKA Graduate School. The Honorable Ms. Ihsana El Huluko MPD, the Director's Secretary for the Division of Human Resources, Finance, Facilities, and Infrastructure, Promotion, Cooperation, and Student Affairs of UHAMKA Graduate School. The Honorable Mr. Siliwarni PhD, the Head of Department of Teacher Training and Pedagogy of University of Muhammadiyah, Professor Dr. Hamka. The Honorable Ms. Riku Sumaningsi MPD, the Chairwoman of the 7 UICELL 2023.
Your Excellency Professor Amirul Mukminin, SPD, MSc, ED, PhD of University Jambi, Indonesia, and University of Pannonia, Hungary. Your Excellency Professor Dr. Marjolein Versboer of University Groningen, Netherlands, and University Pannonia, Hungary. Your Excellency Professor Florante P. Ibarra, EDD College of Education, Central Luzon State University, Philippines. Your Excellency Ms. Siti Zulaiha, MA PhD of University Muhammadiyah, Professor Dr. Hamka, Indonesia. Your Excellency Ms. Mei Liu, BEd of University Tonghai, Taichung, Taiwan. Your Excellency Dr. Insinyur Suciana Wiji Rahayu, MPD of University of Muhammadiyah, Professor Dr. Hamka, Indonesia. Respectable all researchers, teachers, presenters, and all of our beloved participants of the UICELL 2023. There is no cretin before it has been created by the only one creature, and every cretin needs a partner to be perfect, like a tender water trip to be drifting, like a starlight need the dark night to be lightning, and like a great answer by the great audiences.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our warmest greetings.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Since we are here at Jakarta, let us start the events today with pantun. All presenters are please say cakep after I finish the sentence. Burung merpati terbang melayang, hinggap di dahan ranting bergoyang. Selamat pagi hadirin sekalian. Mari kita mulai acara hari ini dengan riang. As a representative of the event organizer in this beautiful day, I am Salman Febriansyah.
And I'm Brillianti Sastrawinda.
As the master of ceremony who will guide you all through to this session of
The 7 UICELL UHAMKA International Conference on ELT and call by the theme Empowering Language Teaching in the Digital Era,
Exploring Emotion,
Effectiveness,
and Multilingualism.
14 until 15 December. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to show our greatest thanks for the keynote speakers, also the invited speakers who have gone the extra mile to prepare a presentation that help making this event a success.
We are also glad to announce you that by December 20th, 2023, we have received a lot of papers related to given theme and sub-theme of the conference, Empowering Language Teaching in the Digital Era, Exploring Emotion, Effectiveness, and Multilingualism. In total, we have received 93 papers from 138 presenters in various countries all around the world, such as Japan,
Malaysia,
Vietnam,
Taiwan,
India,
Bangladesh,
Philippines,
Pakistan,
United States of America,
Croatia,
Canada, and other countries that use English as their first language. Hello and welcome to the 7 UICELL 2023.
UICELL 2023 is the 7th appearance of the UHAMKA International Conference that will be held on December 14 until 15, 2023 at UHAMKA Grade School, Jakarta, Indonesia, connecting with all presenters and participants all around the world.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as for the agenda today, we'd like to have 3 sessions of presentation. The first presentation will be delivered by Professor Dr. Marjolein Vesper of University of Groningen, Netherlands, and University of Pannonia, Hungary. Then, continued by the second presentation given from Professor Florante P. Ibarra, EDD of College of Education, Central Luzon State University, Philippines. Before we jump to the last session, we will have a short break for about 1 hour and continue the rest of the session. The third session featured speech that will be carried out by Ms. Mei Huliu, BEd, MA, PhD of Tung Hai University, Taichung, Taiwan. After that, we will have a series of parallel sessions conducted on-site, recorded, and online.
Regarding the general rules of the presentation, the keynote speakers will be given 45 minutes to present their presentation, start the discussion, and the Q&A session with the participants, whilst in the parallel session, presenters will only be given for 15 minutes to deliver his or her speech and begin the Q&A. Each session will have person in charge or moderator will help both presenters and participants see the discussion.
For the second day, we will have other inspiring speaker in the morning and conduct the parallel session after the lunch break. On-site presenter will be instructed to enter their own site, and online presenter will be invited to join the structured breakout room. We are kindly suggesting you join the meeting on time, actively participate during the start and the end of the conference, and follow the event rules and guidelines provisionally. Please remember to keep track on your attendance each day.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope that by holding this event, lots of people inspired, triggered, and even moved to conduct further research from the basic knowledge we share and exchange here. We hope to see the breakthrough development of the future research and innovation for EFL teachers in integrating multilingualism in teaching activities for EFL teachers, especially in this digital era.
Before we start today's session, let us hear the recitation of Quran Surah An-Nahl, chapter 60, verse 123 until 125. The surah will be about Islam spread by using wisdom, kind advice, and respectful debate to effectively communicate and the message and engage with others. The recitation will be read by Miss Lulu Aulia Rahma. Please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A'udzu billahi minasy syaithanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Tsumma awhayna ilaika an ittabi' millata Ibrahim hanifa wa ma kana minal musyrikin. Innama ju'ila as-sabtu 'ala alladhina ikhtalafu fihi wa inna rabbaka layahkumu bainahum yawmal qiyamati fima kanu fihi yakhtalifun. Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati wal mau'izatil hasanati wajadilhum billati hiya ahsan. Inna rabbaka huwa a'lamu biman dhalla an sabilihi wa huwa a'lamu bil muhtadin. Sadaqallahul azim. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Beginning the session, let us sing the national anthem of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya, followed by the March of Muhammadiyah, which will be guided by our greatest conductor, Miss Fatima Suhaila. Ladies and gentlemen, are pleased to stand up.
Di sanalah as professional. We hope it will lead us to reconsider knowledge, competencies, skill, and practices as a strategy for enabling innovation in learning and teaching, and a paradigm for enhancing our capacity for innovation. We additionally hope that the expertise and insight of our esteemed keynote speaker and other presenters will guide us. Finally, we thank all presenters for their willingness to share their studies and promising ideas. Thank you to all participants for their fervent and intense cooperation. And I also want to express my gratitude to the committee and all those who have worked hard since the beginning. And we hope that all of us will gain fresh idea, outcome, and new views from the occasion. And lastly, we are sincerely honored by your extensive support and treasured involvement. I also hereby declare the conference open for further proceedings. Thank you for choosing to be a part of this wonderful journey, and don't forget to have fun. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite to the podium to deliver his remarks as well as officially inaugurate the event today. To Professor Dr. Haji Ade Hikmat MPD, the Director of UHAMKA Graduate School, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, wa syukurillah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Allahumma sholli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad, amma ba'd. Saya ucapkan selamat pagi kepada Bapak Ibu hadirin ya. Ini karena konsekuensi di bulan Oktober ada penetapan bahasa Indonesia sebagai bahasa ke-10 untuk digunakan di kegiatan acara resmi, maka saya akan menyampaikan dengan bahasa Indonesia. Karena saya dipesankan oleh Ketua Lembaga Bahasa itu dimanapun kegiatan ilmiah di pasca ini harus, tetapi saya sudah siapkan penerjemahnya gitu ya. Alhamdulillah di pagi yang cerah ini saya kira sudah hadir beberapa narasumber ya. Konferensi ini insya Allah akan memberikan kesempatan emas untuk kita semua dalam hal memanfaatkan teknologi digital dalam meningkatkan pembelajaran bahasa, menggali aspek emosional dalam pembelajaran, mendorong praktik pengajaran bahasa yang efektif, mendukung multilingualism dalam pengajaran bahasa, dan memperkenalkan pengembangan profesional guru di era digital.
Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Professor Dr. Haji Ade Hikmat MPD as the Director of UHAMKA Graduate School. Today, I will be using Indonesian to contribute to the preservation of Bahasa Indonesia as the official UNESCO language. The conference today that we have can be viewed as an opportunity to leverage digital tools for enhanced language teaching, explore emotion and language learning, promote effective language teaching practices, provide multilingualism and language teaching, and introduce teacher professional development in the digital age.
Kami sangat mengapresiasi yang sangat tinggi kepada semua pembicara yang hadir ya, para narasumber yang hadir secara langsung maupun tidak langsung ya. Sehingga kita bisa insya Allah mengikuti kegiatan konferensi dengan tema memberdayakan pengajaran bahasa di era digital, mengeksplorasi emosi, efektivitas, dan multilingualism disertai dengan subtema yang lainnya.
We appreciate offline and online presenters as well as the pre-recorded presenters along the participants from several countries who have been interested and look forward to this year's theme, which is empowering language teaching in the digital era, exploring emotion, effectiveness, and multilingualism and its 5 sub-themes.
Narasumber kunci dan pembicara utama hari ini merupakan pakar yang sangat hebat dalam bidangnya masing-masing, dan kami sangat antusias untuk mengikuti kegiatan konferensi ini. Saya kira ini diantaranya ada Profesor Amirul Mukminin, ya. Kemudian Profesor Dr. Marjalin, Profesor Florence, ya. Kemudian Ibu Siti Zulaiha, Mei Huliu PhD, dan Dr. Insinyur Suciana Wijirahayu.
Today's keynote and featured speakers are great experts about the current issue, and we are profoundly excited to hear, learn, and explore more about a range of perspectives from the presenters whose competencies and practices focus on the fields of language education in digital area. We show you a heartwarming welcome, especially to the keynote and invited speaker. First, Professor Amirul Mukminin, SPD, MSc, AD, PhD. Second, Professor Dr. Marjolin Verspur. Third, Professor Florante P. Ibara, EDD. Fourth, Siti Zulaiha, PhD. Fifth, Mei Hui Liu, PhD. And the last, Dr. Insinyur Suciana Wijirahayu, MPD. As well as to all presenters and participants attending the hybrid conference of 7th UICELL.
Oke. Pada kesempatan yang baik ini saya menyampaikan rasa terima kasih kepada semua pihak, ya, terutama pada panitia penyelenggara yang telah berhasil menggelar konferensi ini. Karena keberhasilan ini tidak terlepas dari dedikasi dan kerja keras semua pihak yang terlibat untuk mensukseskan acara konferensi ini.
I'd like to show my fullest gratitude to all the participants, especially to the organizing committee, for making the conference successful. Not to mention, one crucial asset that continuously improves the conference organization comes from the diligent work of all that involved. They have also been giving their time and effort to assist our conference to running well.
Baik, saya juga ingin menyampaikan rasa terima kasih kepada para peserta pemakalah ilmiah hari ini atas kontribusinya dalam sharing pengetahuan yang bermanfaat dan membangun.
I'd like to also express my gratitude to the conference attendees and proceedings paper writers for your great contributions to the constructive knowledge exchange.
Sebelum saya membuka kegiatan konferensi ini secara resmi, karena tadi ada pantun dari MC, ya, saya harus pantun juga ini, ya, tapi tidak diterjemahkan, nggak apa-apa. Bunga mekar di pagi hari,
Cakep.
ada mawar dan juga melati.
Cakep.
Sebelum masuk ke pembahasan inti,
Cakep.
dengarkan dulu pantun ini. Gitu.
Cakep.
Sudah ada, ya? Belum ya. Memancing ikan di ujung muara,
Cakep.
hendak dimasak menjadi gulai.
Cakep.
Mengucap bismillah pembuka acara, pertanda acara segera dimulai.
Cakep.
Ya. Saya biasa berbalas pantun dengan Prof. Amir, ya. Menguji mahasiswa S3 aja berbalas pantun gitu, ya. Dengan mengucap bismillahirrahmanirrahim, saya buka konferensi UICELL ke-7 ini secara resmi. Selamat melaksanakan kegiatan konferensi, semoga Bapak Ibu sekalian dapat memetik kenangan indah dari acara ini. Terima kasih banyak. Aura kasih senyum merayu.
Cakep.
Sekian, terima kasih. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. By reciting Basmala, I officially declare that this conference is open. Please have fun and get a bunch of happy memories with us. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. In regards, Professor Dr. Haji Ade Hikmat, MPD.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we are here at the University of Muhammadiyah Professor Dr. Hamka, we are happy to inform you that we are actively conducting research at our university. So allow us to introduce you to the university we love. University Muhammadiyah Professor Dr. Hamka.
Kiai Haji Ahmad Dahlan was the founder of the Muhammadiyah Islamic Organization, whose spirit has been enlightening, educating, and advancing people until recently. Buya Hamka is a figure of the nation's intellectual cleric, who inspires us to prepare young generations to excel in the domains of spiritual, intellectual, emotional, and social capability. University of Muhammadiyah Professor Dr. Hamka, or widely known as UHAMKA, is located in the center of the metropolitan city of Jakarta and is accessible to various means of the city transformation. Such an easy access has increased the university effectivity in providing quality education for the young generation. UHAMKA promotes the Islamic values and Muhammadiyah in its teaching and learning processes, and in many life aspects, preparing its graduates to excel intellectually and spiritually.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dengan lisensi akreditasi A yang kami miliki, lulusan UHAMKA bisa dengan mudah memasuki dunia kerja yang serba kompetitif maupun sukses dalam berwirausaha, karena UHAMKA membekali pribadi setiap lulusan berkarakter, cerdas, kreatif, dan inovatif di era industri 4.0 yang serba digital.
UHAMKA has 10 faculties with modern teaching and learning facilities and infrastructure, one of which is Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences. These faculties are supported by professional teaching staff as well as modern classroom.
Alasan saya memilih di UHAMKA adalah karena alat-alat yang lengkap dan tenaga-tenaga pengajar di sini adalah dosen-dosen yang profesional.
Laboratory facilities and infrastructure to prepare qualified graduates in health research. One of the leading sectors in the faculty is the research on the halal test of food ingredients. Such a research sector has been referred by many large companies in determining the halal category of a food product. The Faculty of Medicines is equipped with comprehensive laboratory facilities and always updates the teaching and learning materials with the current development of theories and application. The Faculty of Economics and Business prepares its graduates with sufficient competences in the field of Islamic economy and business. One among the courses presents the Islamic philanthropy. The teaching and learning facilities are supported with library and other teaching and learning resources that focus on the study of economy, accounting, management, and Islamic banking. The Faculty of Engineering runs a teaching and learning system that develops students' intelligence and skills in mastering their preferable field of study. allowing them to contribute directly to technology advancement and to prepare them to participate in the world of work.
Kami dari program studi teknik elektron dan alhamdulillah inilah hasil karya kita, robot pemadam api.
Faculty of Teacher Training and Pedagogy. The Faculty of Teacher Training and Pedagogy provides an intensive education to potential teaching staff and educators. It promotes each graduate to have sufficient skills and attitude, Islamic piety, general and specific competences at national and international level, maintaining UHAMKA's reputation as a reliable and trusted institution of teacher education.
Alasan saya kuliah di sini karena akreditasi A. Telah di sana segala gitu daftar di UHAMKA.
In preparing professional teachers, the teaching and learning process are supported by sufficient infrastructure and the current teaching method. This is to prepare future teachers who can contribute directly to the welfare of the community and to prepare the future of the nation's bright young generation. Faculty of Islamic Studies. The Faculty of Islamic Studies here is to prepare Islamic education teachers and to manage Islamic affiliated organizations. The Faculty of Psychology develops psychological sciences that is integrated with Islamic values to prepare for professional graduates that excel in various psychological professions. The Faculty of Health Sciences prepares qualified health workers through the development of health sciences to improve the welfare and health of the community. The Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, with the primary study program, namely Communication Science, prepares its graduates who excel in various fields of communication science. With the support of professional teachers, teaching and learning facilities, the faculty presents the real professional world to the students.
Saya mengambil jurusan ini karena fasilitas di Fisip UHAMKA sangatlah menunjang kebutuhan mahasiswa. Masuk UHAMKA, kalian nggak akan nyesal.
UHAMKA Graduate School. UHAMKA Graduate School addresses the challenges of students and practitioners who are willing to pursue higher levels of education, as well as to improve their profession and work competence.
Saya memilih UHAMKA karena untuk menunjang pendidikan dan karir saya ke depan, dan karena terakreditasi A sehingga membuat saya yakin untuk memilih kampus ini.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Pusat Neuroscience UHAMKA adalah lembaga yang mengkhususkan diri untuk mengkaji bagaimana ilmu tentang otak dan perilaku manusia diaplikasikan di berbagai bidang, seperti leadership, marketing, edukasi, dan sebagainya. Pusat Neuroscience UHAMKA adalah satu dari sangat sedikit lembaga yang mengkaji bidang itu di Indonesia. Jika ada di antara rekan-rekan semuanya yang ingin mendalami tentang otak manusia, silakan bergabung ke UHAMKA.
UHAMKA, a university that facilitates young people to excel in intellectual and spiritual intelligence. It prepares its graduates for global competition and the need of professionals in the Industrial Era 4.0.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabihi wa min tabi'in ihsan ila yaumidin, amma ba'd. Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Honorable Professor Ade Hikmat is the director of UHAMKA Graduate School. And we've got also Ibu Dr. Isana El Kuluko. Thank you for taking part here. Honorable all the keynote speakers and the invited speakers, and also all the presenters in this conference. We've got also participants from some are English teachers, some are students as well. It's my great honor to be here, to be a moderator of this first keynote speech sessions. It's been the 7th time of the conference, yeah. And it shows very strong commitment of the institution to, contribute to the enhancement of the, English as a foreign language teaching, teachers' competence. And we've been inviting influential keynote speakers who are expert in the fields, not only in applied linguistics, but also in relevant areas, yeah, that play roles also in the success of teaching and learning. Also today, we've got distinguished, outstanding keynote speaker. In these first sessions, we've got Professor Mario Leint Verspur. Did I correct it in Dutch style? All right. Marjolein Verspur. Before we start, I'd like to introduce her. I'd like to read her profile first, so we can get to know more. Professor Marjolein was graduated from Rits Universiteit Leiden, the Netherlands. Yeah, she received her PhD there, and then she's got her MA in linguistics, yeah, in Louisiana State University, USA. And one thing that is impressive is she speaks more than 2 foreign languages. Yeah. She speaks English for sure, and then German and French as well. That hopefully it can inspire us. Then she's been very productive. Yeah, she's got lots of research articles and also books. Yeah, if I read it may take forever, but it's really a lot, and it's been influential. Her works have been quoted by more than 9,700 something authors. I checked it in Google Scholars. That was cool. And she's been concerned with language acquisitions, yeah, and applied linguistics as well. And now she's in charge in University of Pannonia, Hungary. And you've been working with a researcher from UHAMKA as well. Yeah, all right. In this session, she's going to deliver her speech on the aspects that play roles in the success of English as a foreign language teaching. Yeah, as we know that English teachers may perceive language different ways. Yeah, some may perceive English as a means to communicate ideas, feelings, thoughts. Some may still perceive that as a set of grammatical rules. That definitely those perceptions will influence the way they teach. And today we are going to hear from the expert directly, dealing with whether exposure, interaction, or grammar should be taken into account. Which one is more dominant and which one is more important? Without any further ado, let's welcome our outstanding keynote speaker, Professor Marjolein. Please give great applause to welcome her.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Is it working? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, it's working. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, organizers, for inviting me. And I was very pleased to get this invitation. And I was wondering how did I get this, but I think I know the guilty one, Professor Amirul, who probably told the organizers here that I might be interested. I have been wanting to come to Indonesia for so long, so I'm very pleased to be here. It's a lovely country, and it's just also, I've been welcomed so warmly by everyone, and also the ceremony this morning was so beautiful. Took a movie of it. And so, yes, I am very pleased to be here. And I'm actually going to talk to you about exposure, interaction, and grammar. And you see here my name and University of Pannonia. I still work there. I am full professor there. At the University of Groningen, I retired in the Netherlands. After a certain age, you're not allowed to work anymore. So, but fortunately, Pannonia still wants me. Okay, how should I do the next slide? Can I do it myself? Or oh yeah. Okay. Nope. Yeah. Okay, most of you are English teachers, right? Or teach foreign languages, yes? And you've had probably your courses in how to teach. And have you heard of Krashen? Yeah. So the title is Exposure, Interaction, or Grammar. And basically, I would like to see which one, in line with the theme, which one is the most effective, and probably the one where a little bit of emotion gets involved. That's probably the most effective way of learning a language. And grammar does not give much emotion, I would think. Anyway, so Krashen, he was probably not the first one, but he was the most famous one to come up with the idea that you needed to be exposed, you need to hear the language so that you can learn it. And the comprehension approach was basically a learner reads a book, puts on like earphones, and listens to stories, and they were long experiments that were really good. And you know what? The students that just listened to the stories and saw the pictures and heard the words in the foreign language actually learned faster and better than those that had a more traditional approach. At the same time, or a bit later, Lewis, you've probably heard of him, and he was also not the only one, but the lexical approach, like let's not focus on grammar, let's not explain the rules, what people need are words. The words have meanings, the grammar is really, it's important, but not that important. With Krashen and the comprehension approach, but also at that time there was like immersion education in Canada. You've probably heard of that, where the children were, the English-speaking children were put in a French class and they heard French the whole day and they learned French. But what happened was that they didn't speak French to each other, and even though they were very fluent, they made mistakes, and very consistent mistakes, and what you would call fossilized mistakes. And so they were ingrained, they were entrenched. So I still wonder myself, because I haven't looked at that research, I think the mistakes were not so bad, their French was pretty good. But at that time, Swain, one of the people also in Canada who had been doing the research, came up with a hypothesis that to really learn the language, you must also use it. You shouldn't just listen, you also have to interact. And you interact because that way you have to use the words, you kind of know what you don't know, and then the next time you hear it, you will learn it, and you can, there's many different ways of reasons why you should practice it to learn it well. And I think nobody would deny that you must practice to learn the language. But I don't know about your schools, but in our schools in the Netherlands, people just have these little conversations and without having heard the language before. So I don't think Swain meant it that way, but that's how it's practiced a lot. And then communicative language teaching, probably kind of combined the different ideas, and there's many different versions of it, but exposure, interaction, meaningful. But you know what? I don't know how it is in Indonesia. I think it's the same as in the Netherlands. But we say we teach communicatively, but when you look at the textbooks, they look communicative, nice topics, nice little conversations. But what most teachers do, and this is especially in the Netherlands, let's see, where's the next one? Oh yeah, got it, yeah. Exposure versus grammar. You see the black things? That's the time that is spent on explicit explanations in Dutch, in the L1, about the language. So you see, the research that I'm going to tell you about is about French, and later on and in most classes, about 60% of the time, people speak in Dutch, talk about the rules, like je suis, tu es, il est, nous sommes, all these different little rules to I am, you are, he is, the little explicit and why and third person thing, you're s, and this is the present tense, so that's the present perfect. And the French is used very, very little. That is how it is in the Netherlands. And I talked to Faisal Aziz, whose PhD study I'm going to present in just a minute. And he agrees with me. Is that what you find too in Indonesia? More grammar than actually using it in exposure? Yes? Yeah, okay. So what I'm going to do today is talk about two methods. These are old-fashioned method studies. So I'm going to show what happens when you do one thing or the other. So I went to, so Faisal Aziz was a PhD in Hungary, and he followed the students, quite a few, I'll tell you about it in a little bit, about how they learned English and what the effect was. And I will show you in a little bit, but very little authentic exposure. And the ideas behind it are based on the lexical approach, words, especially words taught in isolation, but lots and lots and lots of interaction. So the Swain part, lots of interaction. Then after that, I will show you an approach very briefly about French. And you see how little French this teacher spoke in the regular classes. And, but the method that she uses, that was used in several classes, had lots of exposure, had gestures, had songs, but lots of exposure. And the big difference between the Pesantren project and the AIM is all the words were taught in little phrases, not single words, but phrases together. But also lots of interaction. And then at the very end, I'll explain, I'm not giving you my theory that would last too long, usage-based theory, but just a little bit about why I think it works so much better. And what we're hoping, and I went to the Pesantren, and we're talking about introducing the method, the French method, a little bit in there. I hope it's going to work. So, next slide, please. Yeah. So, you see here at the top, the University of Pannonia. That's where I'm working right now, where Amirul is working, and where Faisal Aziz did his PhD. And it's the long-term impact of learner-learner interaction on L2 development. Next slide. So this is for people that have never been in a Pesantren, but you probably know more about it than me. But as you know, students live and learn inside the school complex. And students, apparently already in the 16th century, and students are aged between 7 and 18 years old. Next slide, please. And after the independence, the Pesantren started teaching non-religious subjects. And did you know that 82.2% of the Pesantrens are in Java? right? Who has been to a pesantren here? Anybody? You've been to a pesantren? Raise your hand if you've been from a pesantren. Just 2 people. Oh, okay, good. So correct me later if I'm wrong, because, and I went to visit the pesantren myself just the day before yesterday, and I was so impressed. It was just so amazing. But, next slide, please. So the one I went to was in Tasikmalaya. Tasikmalaya? Whatever. Say it again. Tasikmalaya? Malaya. Okay. Next slide. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah. So most of you probably know these things, but let's pretend you don't. And but do correct me. But at the school, the students every morning get a vocabulary session for about 15 to 20 minutes. They practice vocabulary. They have learned words in isolation, and they practice them and make them in little sentences. Next slide, please. And once a week, they will do a public speaking practice. And 1 week, it's all English. 1 week, it's Arabic. And once a semester, I think everybody gets a turn to do the public speaking. Next. And twice a week, they spend about 30, 40 minutes doing a conversation practice, all in English. And you see that the ladies with the blue scarf, those are the ones that are making sure that everybody's talking. But what you see here is lots of talking, and also during the week, during the English week, the students only speak English, and if they don't, they get punished. And the next week they speak Arabic, and if they don't, they get punished. And as punishment, they will have to write lots of words again. So very lexically oriented. Words. So they know the words. Next slide, please. And these are some of the words that then they see. So you see the English word, and you see the Malaysian word, and you see the Arabic word. And these are all in the areas where the students go to the kitchen but you see again that they're separated words. The students don't hear whether there's a the in front of it or a or what kind of verb or if you had little sentences like, I am sick, I need some medicine, I have a fever. If you had little phrases, they would already know so much more than just the word, because now they don't know which words go together. Okay, next slide, please. So language learning in the pesantren, we'll just do one at a time now. So English and Arabic are used in daily communication, and talk about multilingual. They have their own language, Sudanese. They have probably another local language. Bahasa, they speak English, Arabic, and but during the week, the local language or dialects or Indonesian language are strongly forbidden. And when I heard Faisal talk to me about all this, I thought, ooh, that must be such a strict pesantren and these poor kids. But when I went to visit, I saw how warm, and the children really seemed to enjoy being there. And also Faisal said it was probably the best time of his life, having been there. So it's a very, even though it sounds like strongly forbidden, it's very strict. I think people like to stick to the rules. But I think everybody would agree that there's limited exposure, input to standard use of English. And I didn't realize it until I went there, but they actually have lots of exposure to Arabic because of the Quran. Okay, so Arabic, they actually have more exposure and more whole sentences than English. And also, and I'm looking at the people that have been there, Faisal said it was even easier to speak Arabic than it is English. Is that true? Yeah? So it was because you've heard that, and probably because already they knew some of the language, and it's easy to pronounce. But most of the students had little to no background of English learning before. Okay, next. And just to, do you guys understand the method? So learning words in English class, they also had a bit of reading, but about 80% of the time, the learning was through interaction, but very little authentic exposure in whole sentences. Okay, so this is the amount of interaction, peer interaction. About 90% is learning from each other, and 10% like somebody from a more fluent speaker. So the research question was, when in this method, if the learner learns, how do the texts change? And what happens in most studies, when people learn a language, they go up very fast and then they kind of level off. So is that happening here, and when is it happening? Yes, next. And we wanted to do 2 years, but that takes too long, so we followed first-year students and second-year students after each other, yes. And we talked about fossilization, like when the little errors kind of remain. And if everybody has the same errors and understands each other, you may call it a pigeonized language, like a local language. So now let's look at the results that he has. The first experiment. So he had a fellow teacher who asked the students to write every other week a short little text, a narrative. They were all the same type. They wrote about 20 minutes, 1 academic year, and 138 learners. And go on, next. These were all the topics. They have to talk about themselves, celebrating Independence Day, my favorite food, my favorite, what's the next word? I can't even read it. Okay, now stop a minute. I want you to look here and help me decide. So this is what we saw. This was the first writing, the first year. And don't say anything yet, but which one would you consider the most fluent? Which one would you consider the least fluent? And which one would you consider medium? I want back to the proceeding. Yeah. Is it very difficult to decide?
Would we need to give chance for them to respond?
Yeah, so which one do you think is the least fluent? Least proficient. Yeah, the right one, right top. Everybody agrees? Right top? And which one is the most proficient, the best, where you think, that student knows a bit of English? Yeah, the left. Yeah. And the one in the middle? Okay, how do you know? And when you look at it, you see that a very beginner writes very short texts, hardly knows any words. And the more fluent, it's longer, fewer errors, more difficult vocabulary, more longer sentences, many different things. But it's all these things together that make it more fluent, not just the text length. Next one. So what we did is we gave them scores. Like the most fluent was a 5. In this particular case, it was about a 3. And the lower one was about a 1. And the middle one was about a 2 or a 1.5. Do you understand this? That just imagine that he received almost 400 texts every other week. Okay? He retyped them and everything, and then he gave the score. But so we first started by looking at it, and then we decided, okay, what are the differences? And here you see on the PowerPoint that a 0, I mean, they didn't write anything, which at the beginning students do. They don't know what to write because they don't know any English. And the 1 is probably the lower one that you saw, and the one that the best one was about a 3 here. Longer text, mostly English, but not all understandable. Lots of misspellings or words left out. So do you understand that this is like the way we scored? We looked at the text, we gave it a score. Okay, so what do you think the average of the students would have been after 1 year of talking? They probably started off with about a 1. What do you think they would, what would you hope for them to have gotten? Yeah. Perhaps we can look at the preceding text again. Can you go back one slide, please? Yeah. So you see the left one, that's about a 3. The top right is about a 1, and the longer one is about a 1.5, 2. Okay, next one. Okay, I want you to predict what these students have had lots and lots of English practice, right? What do you think is the highest they probably got after 1 year? You cannot really see it? Okay. Well, then let's just go to the next slide, and I'll just... I can't do it.
I think even if we make it bigger, it's still not readable because...
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It was on my PowerPoint. It was okay. But okay, do the next slide, please. Okay, this is, so you remember that very first one that was about a 1.5, or between 1 and 1.5? That. So the blue line shows the first year students, and their average at the end was about a 2. That's not much. And you see the orange line is the second year students. And they started off at about a 2, and at the end they had a 2. So did the second year students improve? No. 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 So what happened, and then when we looked at it in detail, the first 6 months they went up, and then everybody evened out. And very little ups and downs. Why is that? Why did they not get better? Probably because they had enough to manage among themselves. You know, they could talk to each other about what they needed to talk, you know, about their schools and whatever. So they were, you know, they were not challenged to get further, I think. Okay, next one, next slide. So this is the average scores of the group at pre, and then mid and post. So the first year students really improved at the beginning, first 6 months, and then flattened out. So my idea is that it's in the first 6 months you have to get them going. If you don't do it right the first 6 months, that's where you make this. So next slide, please. And so the second year students remained the same. Yeah, next slide. And we've just said this. So group 1, a significant difference between start and mid, and between the start and the end, but no difference between mid and end. And group 2, no significant difference between pre, mid, and post scores. So once they reach that level, after 6 months, they remained the same. Next level, next slide. And I would like for you to look at a text that was written at the end of the 2 years. And yeah, this is a typical student essay. My dream is playing basketball because I like to basketball. I'm very like playing basketball. If exercise, I'm very serious. If exercise, because what I am very like this, because I'm very hurry up, can playing basketball with my friends. I am playing basketball just in boarding school only, but if in my home, I like playing football. I must say, I showed this to the people at the pesantren, and the English teachers kind of giggled the way you do, but the other teachers were perfectly happy with it. It's their English too, right? I mean, they all speak it like this. But anyway, go on the next slide. And so here I'm trying to understand what went wrong, what is he doing? You know, what are the patterns? And I think like the I am very like is to him a little chunk. I'm very like means I enjoy. And the if is a when, which is not so bad. And the ing, the verb gets used all over the place. It's just a standard verb form. And next slide. But yeah, I am very hurry up. I love that one. I am very hurry up. I am in a hurry. And yeah, next one. So for his dissertation, Faisal counted the number of L1 forms and L1 constructions, and they remained the same all throughout. So the students didn't get better over time. They remain, you know, the first 6 months they made more errors, but after they leveled off, they didn't make fewer or more. Next slide, please. So we did a pre-post analysis, and next slide. So you see here again that even though it goes down a bit, all these errors or pigeonization forms, fossilized forms, whatever you call them, they are still, they remain rather high. It doesn't change. So what happens probably is they learn them wrong to begin with. It's at the very beginning where you have a chance to automatize the forms that you want, and then they're stuck. So, you know, you need to get it done early. Next. Yeah, next, please. So one of the things that I think is very important, and I'm very thankful to the pesantren to let us do the research there, but it's just so interesting to follow them longitudinally, to see if they make any progress and when they stop. And I think it's just amazing the kind of effort they put into learning English. So it's one of the, yeah, it's just a very ambitious program to get the students to learn English as a foreign language. But of course, another thing that I noticed at the pesantren was all the teachers had their mobiles, but the children did not at all. They're not even allowed to have one. So they also don't get English media. So they don't get the media at all. Okay, next slide. And so this is the effect of peer interaction. And some researchers think that you can learn from each other, but you can also learn the mistakes from each other, I think. So if you use what you hear what you, and then if you hear it often enough, it sounds right. So then it gets stuck. And that's why I think the list of words is what the problem is. Next. And we feel, though, that because you cannot change a whole system, and but you can perhaps make some small changes early on, and hopefully then you can get a bit better results. So, next one. What I'm going to tell you about now is another PhD of mine who from Groningen, at the University of Groningen. And yeah, Groningen. Groningen, yeah. And so can I the next slide again? This is, by the way, a paper that has been published, and I can give you the link, and it has much more about the method than I will give you now. But I don't think this particular method is necessarily the best, but we can copy ideas from it. And back again to the slide. So, as I said before, French, normal French classes in the Netherlands are all this stuff about grammar and a little bit of real language and no interaction, okay? And some teachers got kind of upset with the fact that students didn't like French because they only learned grammar, they couldn't speak French, and after 3 years they all dropped French. So some teachers started with this new method, because that's allowed in the Netherlands, you can use whatever method you want, and where there was lots of exposure. The method was really designed for younger children, like for 8 years old, but they used it for 12 years old, and the reason was that you want to speak the target language from day one. So they only had 2 hours of instruction a week, but everything that was said in the class was in French. And to make the students help understand it, they used gestures. So the story that, I'm not going to show you the story, but in the article, it's like 3 little pigs, so trois petits cochons, 3 little pigs, cochons, and une, whatever, joue la guitare, and you know, they always have gestures with everything, and then they learn them in little raps and in little songs, and they play with the language to learn it. Okay, next slide, please. So, Audrey, she's French, wanted to see the effectiveness of L2 instruction. And we said high exposure, low exposure. And just like Faisal's research, it's ecologically valid. I mean, we're really studying students in class after the method, not just in a laboratory experiment after 1 week. You can't really tell anything after 1 week, but this is after 3 years. And free response data. Free response data means they have to write, just like in Faisal's study, because then you see what they can do. If you just look to see if they know the rules, yeah, they can memorize the rules, but they may not be able to use it. Okay, next. And there were 2 methods. One was a traditional method with a textbook, and the other one was the one with the gestures and the stories. Next one. How much more time do I have?
Because we started earlier, you still have time, but you've spent about 30 minutes. It's all right if you can have about 10 more minutes.
Plenty of time. Yeah. So hopefully you can ask me questions afterwards. And you can also interrupt me if you have a question. You probably can't read this slide, but I just want you to know that the structure-based, the one with the grammar, had about 40% French. The story method had about 99% French in class by the students and the teachers, or exposure. Yeah, next. So her research question was, after 3 years of L2 French instruction, and like I said, in the Netherlands, you do not hear French out. We hear English every day, on TV, in the street. We speak, you know, Dutch and English. English is easy for us because it's almost like this, you know, it's a very similar language.
Which parts of Netherlands speak French? Which parts of Netherlands?
No, in Belgium they speak French. Belgium in the south, but in the Netherlands there's no French spoken. No. Yeah. But lots of English. Yeah. And she wanted to compare them in speaking and in writing. And for the speaking, she would have like a nice little test, and with a rubric, kind of like you saw for the writing, and for the writing the same way. So I'm not going to explain all that. Go on. I'm going to give you an example of the method, but I thought about the Pasantren, and if you have if you want to learn something that you don't know anything about, you better start with something you do know something about, so that you can make connections. So when you see the story bawang merah, bawang putih, yeah, I know it's garlic and onion, right? Yeah, everybody started laughing. And so what I did is, to prepare this, I downloaded a part from internet. It was badly translated into English, and rewrote it a bit. But then I really took it apart, and I'll show you what I did that I think would work for the pesantren kids. And you can tell me this might work or not work, but I thought this story everybody knows. And what you wanted to know is language that they can use themselves. They have to practice it, right? So you have to put words in there that they will want to use themselves so that they can have their own conversations. But if they don't know any English, which, you know, some of them have had a bit of English, but most of them have not, then you need to really start to make it very, very simple. So next slide, please. So this is what I downloaded and rewrote a bit. And so it's a beautiful village and a father and a daughter, and she's beautiful. And she has a very kind heart. And I thought, I'll show you later, but I changed that. And then Babang Puti's life began to change when the father decided to marry her, blah, blah, blah. Okay, next slide. This is what I thought about what the students should hear, and you know, the teacher could pronounce, or the other learner, the teacher. So once upon a time, there lived a father and daughter in a beautiful village. That's too long for a beginner, but I couldn't find pictures of the father on the internet. Yeah, they only have the mothers. I couldn't find the father, so, but you know, I took the wrong scene. But you could have like a picture of her with her father. So this is the father, this is the daughter. Then you could have a picture of a beautiful village. They lived in a beautiful village. And then a picture of, which is Babang Puti, right? It's the good one, yeah. Babang Puti is beautiful. Babang Puti is kind. And you see, I changed it, a kind heart. That's too difficult at this point. So kind, beautiful. The girl's name is, so my name is. And then you could do exercises. The next slide, please. And so who is this? And the children can answer, this is the father, but make them say the whole sentence. Who is this? This is the daughter. And where did they live? So you get these new expressions. And then perhaps when they practice their own conversations, like in the long conversations, if they could practice these sentences. And one of the things that in Audrey's method, in the story method, is the students don't use things creatively yet at the beginning. At first, they repeat quite a bit, but playfully, but they use the same little constructions. And is she beautiful? Yes, she's beautiful. Is she kind? Yes, she's kind. Okay, and then the next slide. What? Yeah. So the story method is, this is the results. And if you look at the light gray line, that is the test for the speaking, and the dotted lines are the results for the writing. So who did better? The story method or this? Can you see who did better? Structure-based or dynamic usage-based? Dynamic usage-based. And consistently, you see also that the line goes like that again, right? And you see also that at the beginning, that's where the difference is made. You see how the first line, the dotted line, the black goes up faster? So that's why I think whatever you can get going, you have to do it very, very soon and not wait till later. And then things will even out. But yeah, there were significant differences. And then, of course, the French teachers in the Netherlands say, oh, but they make more mistakes. Whatever. We looked at that. We looked at all the mistakes it made. The first year, the students who did not have grammar made more errors. So the first year, the students who had just a story made more errors. But the second year, no difference. So what happens is that if you have to figure out the rules by yourself, it takes a little longer. But if they are consistently given, then the student can pick it up. So therefore, it's not fair to try like experiments with grammar teaching, no grammar teaching in 1 week. Nothing will happen. The grammar teacher will always do better. It takes time to learn implicitly. But also we tested them after 6 years in another project, and they remain so much better, especially in speaking. So it really worked. Okay, next slide. So this is the theoretical part. This is for me to finish it up. So we talked about exposure, interaction, grammar. Let's leave that one off. I'm not saying teaching grammar is all wrong, but it should not be the focus. You can, of course, especially if they're a little bit more advanced and would like to know the difference between two different constructions, no problem. But not to learn the language. But from a usage-based perspective, and I could give you the whole theory, but it's also common knowledge in learning. If you hear something and you see something and you know what it means, the more things you have to associate with. So the pictures, the scene as a whole. So it's the whole story that probably is the context, and learners can, oh yeah, kind, oh yeah, that's putty, oh yeah, that's, so the associations made are to the pictures and the scene as a whole. And from learning theory, the more connections you can make, the better it is. So that's why the pictures are good. And one of the other things is associations are not just between meaning and thing, but also between words, like this is the father. You know, for Indonesian speakers, the is not that difficult, but for some languages it is, like having the in front of it. This is the father, and not a father. But when I saw the writing, a lot of the students wrote, this is daughter. They don't have the. Okay, so by learning it, and of course at the beginning, you want to enunciate it a bit better. This is the father. Exaggerate it a bit, because otherwise they don't hear it. But also, you know, people think you need to learn grammar because the patterns are different. But it's very easy to recognize patterns for a child. This is the father, this is the daughter. They will know that this is the table or this is the computer. The patterns are actually the easy part. So that should be fine. But that is why, and the method that was used in the story method, the sentences are at the beginning very similar. And you don't put too many new constructions in one go. Don't make it too complex so the learner can recognize the patterns. And most of all, you learn sequences and idioms. So once upon a time, you know, you learn it correctly. Of course, once upon a time is not used that much, but it's still, it's a phrase. And nowadays, formulaic sequences are very popular to study, but if you don't hear them, you don't get them. So you have to hear these things often enough. So to learn one word, how many times do you have to hear a word before you even recognize it? Does anybody know? Yeah. To use it productively, yes. But to actually, in a context, you have to hear it at least 8 times before you even recognize it. And many of our methods have words, new words, and then the next chapter, those words are no longer there. So that's also bad. You know, you need to recycle all the vocabulary so they remain active. And also for the sequences and idioms. Okay, the next one, I think that's a thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, let's give big applause for Professor Marjolaine. Very insightful. Prof. Marjolaine just shared empirical study, which I think obviously gives implication in English teaching and learning. I think we've got a lot of English teachers and prospective English teachers who can contextualize the implications of that into teaching and learning process. I'm inviting questions from the audience who are here. Please, the first chance, could you please pass the microphone? Could you please introduce yourself? Could you please stand up, Ibu? Yeah, time is yours.
Thank you.
doesn't work. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the presentation, Professor Marjolein. It was really nice, and then I've been experiencing.
Could you introduce
Oh,
yourself
yes,
first, Ibu?
Okay, my name is Nur Hasanah. I work for Pesantren Nurul Fikri and also in LBI University of Indonesia. First of all, I would like to ask your opinion, yeah, about dictionary skills for students in pesantren, especially. Like you said before, that it is very limited for students in pesantren to use mobile compared to the teachers. So if we treat the students using dictionary skills, do you agree with this? I mean, in the term or in the level of building the independent learning, and then also because I saw several mistakes for spelling, yeah. So based on my experience, learning or teach them dictionary skills will support them to write properly, especially for spelling. However, in this era, do you think it's still appropriate for the students using paper-based dictionary skill or using mobile?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, very good question. And it's, there's several studies now, and this is in the Netherlands, but also in other countries. Students who use the mobile, who use the, who listen to the foreign language through the media, Dutch children that have listened to the media already know so much English when they get to school, before they even get instruction. So yes, and there's also proven, which is horrible, but in a way, the best learners are the ones that play the games. And you know, you wonder why, but it's because they have to do something with the language, not just listen and not just take it, but they have to understand to be able to win or to do whatever. So the best English learners in several studies are the ones that have done video games. As parents and as teachers, you think they're the most awful thing they are, but they learn English from it. But I think the dictionary on paper, yeah, sometimes it's helpful to learn a word, but you don't want to learn words in isolation. You don't want to learn words. So I think it's still better to have a context. And one of the teachers at the Pesantren asked me, do you think they should watch something? And I'm sure you don't want to give these kids mobiles, and then, because it's so good that they don't have them. But I think perhaps part of the lesson could be like a video with a good story, and that's something that the kids enjoy watching or even repeating. So yes, I think I would be for a bit of authentic, because that's authentic exposure, more so even than any teacher can give. And another thing is that these videos, people spend so much money on making them and on acting. They're so good. So, you know, you can really see authentic, you get authentic exposure. So even though I'm not for everybody getting the mobile in class, I think you know, some media exposure would be good. Does that answer your question? Yeah, okay.
Thank you. First question for for Ibu Nur Hasanah. I'm inviting the next questions, please. Yes, could you please pass the microphone?
Good morning. Thank you so much for the presentation. I
Yeah, I think peer assessment would be useful, but they don't see each other's mistakes, because and one of the things that Faisal also looked at is when they spoke to each other, the kids. Do they sometimes, supposedly what helps learning is say, hey, what did you mean? Or can you give corrective feedback to your partner? None. The kids talk, they understand each other, they're happy with each other, they don't notice that the things are not target-like. So I think in this case, peer assessment is not so good. I really believe in peer assessment, but perhaps only if they have heard the correct before, if they've had enough exposure.
My focus was actually to the writing work. So we would only apply the peer assessment on the writing, writing work. So not on the speaking, because I do believe when once we correct someone's mistake while talking, it's going to demotivate us, and it's going to make the students quit talking.
Yeah.
So what about the writing? Will it be possible? Because I think it will be a great motivation for the second year students to level up their English proficiency, because they have the challenge. By next year, you will have to judge and check his work.
I probably sound very awful when I say this, but I don't think it would help unless they get more exposure to begin with, because they don't see their English is the same as the first year students. So to them, it's good. So yes, if they get better, but I don't think they will get better, because then they see, this is, by the way, also proven in research, if you look at errors enough, you keep on making those errors. Like teachers supposedly make horrible errors because they see them all the time, misspellings. And so no, I don't think it would be good. But it would be good, and of course that's what they do at the Pesantren. They have the older year students teach the younger year students. They have the presentations, but my idea there too would be let them first read something and then talk about it, and then perhaps get somebody to give, but they first need exposure and then the production. And that's what's missing constantly here. So I think if at this point, no, but if the program were slightly better, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Your name, please, and institution?
My name is Ahmad. I'm from UHAMKA.
Oh, graduate school. Yeah, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Anyway, you make the decision, however, yeah. Thank you. And can we give chance for the participant in Zoom? We've got also participant raising hand. Mas Darul Ihsan, yeah. Could you please open your mic and activate your microphone first, Mas Darul Ihsan. Let's check if your voice can be heard from here. Your mic.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Good morning, all. Well, my name is Mas Darul Ihsan. Thank you for this nice presentation. And I'm from Gresik, Surabaya, actually. And I would like to talk about this. What I would like to say that it seems like a kind of approach in teaching, speaking, right? And then, as I know so far, the students basically just obey what proposed by the teacher in the classrooms. And then I have done such kind of research doing this, and as proposed by Bern and Co, that the approach in teaching speaking consists of two, basically direct or control and indirect and transfer approach. And well, to focus on this, my research discussion and my research conclusion that most of the teachers in the classroom propose direct or control approach. That's the problem actually, that's the biggest problem, because as I know that the power relation between the teachers and the classroom, of course, it's belong to the teachers, and then the students just obey just everything what have or had the teachers proposed or proposed in the classroom. So what do you think about this, Prof?
I think you're very right that a lot of teachers think that good teaching is presenting it to the class.
Yeah.
And you know what? That even the students in the Netherlands actually like the old-fashioned way better too. Like they feel like they're learning something. So it is, yeah, it's almost like language is a subject that you can teach like math, and it's not. And but yeah, it's very difficult. And also, like in the Netherlands, I showed you, we have had these studies, we've had the results. Even teachers that have worked with the method and have had good results, they worry that the students don't know the grammar enough, and they switch to the old way again. So it's these teachers' beliefs and habits and the way they think they should be teaching is so deeply ingrained. So I've given up on changing them because I don't think it's going to work. So do you agree with me on that? That it's very difficult to change the teachers?
Yeah. One more thing that just like on my own observation when I'm doing a research that the input of English language as a second language in the classroom is so limited, and then when we are asked to the students just for the example give us a certain topics and then please discuss about this, and then they don't understand and what they should express, what does the what I mean that the students like get confused what they do actually, and then just keep silent and no expressions. That's the problem actually.
Yeah. Perhaps then some like task-based learning would be fun. You know, like for example, you need to read this and you need to give a presentation about it with your friend or whatever, and explain to, give a specific task that rather than just talking to each other, because then they think, well, what should I talk about? But if you make them do some reading and then putting things together, using the words, and then have to produce something, that might work better.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mas Darul Iksan. I think it's been answered. Thank you very much, Prof. Marjolaine. I think we've got a time over, but you have about 1 minute to have your closing remark or statement.
Well, I don't have. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm glad that you thought it was useful. So thank you very much.
Can please give big applause for our first keynote speaker. Thank you very much. I think it's really beneficial, and the audience can draw a conclusion and take benefits from it. Thank you very much. You may have a seat there.
Thanks to Mr. Siliwarni for the assistance and Professor Dr. Marjolein Vesper for the inspiring keynote speech. We would like to ask you to remain on stage. For UICELL committee, we would like to give you a token of appreciation to you, and we would like to invite Mr. Kusumaningsi MPD, the chairman of the 7 UICELL, to come on stage and present the token to Prof. Dr. Marjolein Vesper.
Thanks to Mr. Siliwarni, PhD, for the assistant, and Professor Dr. Marjolan Verspoor for the inspiring keynote speech. We would like to ask you to remain on stage for the UICELL committee would like to present a token of appreciation to you. And we would like to invite Ms. Riku Sumaningsi, MPD, the chairwoman of the 7 UICELL 2023, to come on stage and present the token to Professor Dr. Marjolan Verspoor.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next presentation from the second keynote speaker, Professor Floranti P. Ibarra EDD of College of Education Central Luzon State University, Philippines. This presentation will also be assisted by Mr. Siliwani, PhD. With equal pleasure, please welcome Professor Floranti P. Ibarra EDD and Mr. Siliwani, PhD.
Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, in this second keynote speech, we are gonna have Professor Florante P. Ibarra, EDD. Yeah. It's interesting because he's got expertise in related area that is influenced also in language learning. Yeah, we're gonna listen to different perspective. Yeah, here may I introduce him first. Professor Florante is now a professor in Graduate School of Education, College of Education, Central Luzon State University, Philippines. He's the recipient of 2009 Classic Fulbright Scholarship Award. Yeah, he's got his doctorate degree in education in music and music education in 2012. It's gonna be another perspective from music, aspects, yeah. And then, yeah, he's got doctorate degree from Columbia University, Graduate School of Education. And then he's got a master degree, Master of Music in Music Education from University of the Philippines, Diliman. And she's been writing a number of research articles concerning pedagogy and teaching and learning. And I think it's been, he's going to share to us the, connections or the relations between music, yeah, and the language, yeah, whether it's got emotional, connections or things like that. Let's welcome to our second keynote speaker, Professor Ibarra. Please give a big applause.
Okay, so thank you very much, UHAMKA University, for inviting me here. Thank you so much to all the participants who are here this morning. and to the online participants likewise. So can I have my PowerPoint here? No?
Yes, could you please share, just like the first sessions, to share the
Here in the
PowerPoint
laptop?
slides from...
No.
Yeah.
Or I can have it in my... It's not here.
It's already there. Oh, it's there already. It is on the screen already, yeah.
It must be in the screen.
Could you share it in Zoom so that we can see it from here? Oh, here. Yeah, here we go.
Okay, so my topic is very different because I will be talking about the connection of music and language and the emotional connection and disconnection of these two fields. In my perspective, the music and the language are inseparable. They are both connected to each other in terms of the elements, in terms of the syntax of the language, in terms of the elements of music. They are both connected to each other, and you cannot separate both of them. So the general overview of this one is music and language are associated with the brain. Now, brain development is a process of incorporating patterns into increasingly complex systems. The music has the power to develop that brain as early as infants, and the same thing with the language. As infants hear a particular sound, a particular language intonation, they can absorb that particular element. Now, music is also a remarkable effective tool for providing those patterns for the brain development. Because there are a lot of studies that show that music has the power to enhance the cognitive ability of the students, of the infants, specifically in language, science, and numeracy. So research is growing daily that shows visible evidence that music literally changes children's brains. Now, this research shows that music can calm or stimulate the movement of the heart rate of the baby in the womb, or premature infants who listen to classical music in the ICU can gain more weight and leave the hospital earlier and have a better chance of survival. So this is more of a music therapy. No? Now, next slide, please. Okay, so young children who receive regular music training, like when we say regular music training, you have been into piano lesson or voice lesson or instrument, like you learn the violin at an early age, you learn a particular instrument at an early age. It says in the empirical evidences that they demonstrate better motor skills, math ability, and reading performance that is associated with the language than those who do not have that particular music lessons experiences. Now, adult musicians' brain differ automatically compared to those children who have these music lessons at an early age of 7 or below, in cases where the musicians began their training before the age of 7. So, have you heard of those terms like child prodigy? Have you heard of that? Yeah, because of they were trained as early as 7 years old or below. And that enhances not only their musical ability, but their cognitive skills as well, specifically what the empirical evidences have said, the language ability, the science ability, and the numerical or the mathematics ability. Next, please. Okay, in multiple intelligences, for example, music is an important part of the multiple intelligence theory, which encourages using several ways of teaching the same material in order to reach students with different ways of learning. Because as you know, music can be integrated into all academic disciplines. Music can be integrated into mathematics. Music has a connection to science. Music is very well integrated and has connection with the language itself and other fields of specialization. So, according to David Laser, I hope you're familiar with it, the 7 ways of knowing. The auditory and the rhythmic intelligence, the auditory system, because in music, in the perspective of a musician, auditory is very important to be able for us to hear a particular sound vibration, like what our first speaker have mentioned. Hearing a specific word, hearing a specific intonation is very important to learning readings. The same thing with music. Auditory system is very important, and the rhythmic intelligence that music contains teaches us language, the movement, communication, emotions, and visual spatial intelligence. So this vibrational or primordial way of knowing is the basis of music and language, and actually is essential to the whole brain's function. So when you say rhythmic intelligence, sound has a rhythmic pattern, has a rhythmic characteristic. If you are going to speak a particular word or if a particular phrase, you are going to follow a specific rhythmic pattern. So they are both connected. Next, please. Next slide. Okay. Now, music and language share connections and differences. Specifically, when it comes to emotion, have you tried watching a movie without music as a background? Have you experienced watching a movie with different types of musical backgrounds? Have you watched a movie with different background music? Like the action movie, there is a background music of that, right? In a particular scene. Meaning to say that the power of music heightens the atmosphere of that particular action. Specifically, if the actors are pronouncing a specific language, specific words, if they are reciting specific words combined with different expressions of the musical elements, that heightens a specific setting of the film. Now, music and language share connections and differences. There had been empirical evidences that highlight the close connection between the song and the speech. Like, for example, do you know the song Happy Birthday? Do you sing Happy Birthday? Do you? Do you know the Happy Birthday song? Yes. Oh, thank you. Very good. When you say, Happy Birthday, Happy Birthday, what's lacking? Do you feel it is complete? Not yet. Based on the sound, it's not yet. And based on the text, based on the language, based on the lyrics, based on the Happy Birthday, there's something missing. What is the missing part? The consequent phrase, Happy Birthday to you, that closes the phrase. So that's the connection, one of the connections of music and language. We hear it orally, and you see it, you analyze it through the text. In our case, we use the text and we combine the text into our musical composition to complete a specific music and language connection. Okay. Now, they both evoke emotions, with music often termed as the language of emotion, and language using intonation and rhythm. Because in language, there is also an intonation, right? Yeah. And rhythm, right? Especially those in our university who are presenting this type of speech choir. They recite a specific poem and with a very good combination of rhythm and intonation, something like that. These are the combinations to create a specific feeling. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, music and language. Let us have a question. How they differ? Now, they differ in how they evoke emotions. For musicians, music is being created through emotions, through sound devoid of inherent meaning. It depends on what specific language or what specific meaning of a particular language should come up out of the meaning, out of music. For example, a specific language could represent anger. For musicians, we have to think of a particular tone or a particular sound that would evoke anger. And if a specific language would have to have like a meaning about love, about kindness, something like that, about friendship. Now, the musician will have to think of a particular sound that is reflected of that particular context. That's how we do it in the music industry. Now, how about the language? Language uses meaningful words, uses yet emojis in written language provide a way to convey emotions akin to music's emotional impact. I think in Facebook, emojis are very, very popular if you are going to send a particular message, a particular expression using language and using emojis. Next, please. So, music and language create structured sequences governed by syntax. If you are going to look at the syntax in music, we have the 7 elements. In musical perspective, we have this kind of 7 elements in music when we are going to create a particular musical example. Like we have the rhythm, and I hope you know that one. You have the melody, we have the harmony, we have the form, we have the dynamic level, getting softer and getting louder, and we have the tone color. It's the type of sound that we create. And I think and I believe that language has the same characteristics. In music, organizing notes around a tonic. Tonic is the home-based tone, what we call it the home-based tone. Creates a framework for predicting what comes next. Like my example, happy birthday. You can now predict what will happen next. Happy birthday to you, that's it. No? Now, similarly in language, readers and listeners predict upcoming sentences. Studies have shown similar brain responses to violations of musical and language syntax, suggesting common underlying principles. Because if you know have you heard of the rhythmic prosody of the text? Are you familiar with that? So when we say the rhythmic prosody of the text, the way how you pronounce the text, the way how it is accented, must be in congruence with how you write music out of the text. So that should be the proper way of writing music. It must correspond to the accent of the word. So this is the context that is being discussed here in this sentence, that there are some violations of the musical and language syntax. The rhythmic prosody. Like, I just would like to share with you one phrase in our national anthem. Dagat, in our anthem, the word dagat means ocean. Dagat at bundok means ocean and mountain. So that is included in our national anthem. However, there is a rhythmic prosody issue because it is written in the musical context, dagat at bundok. The word must be dagat at bundok. So have you imagined the wrong accent? Instead of singing sa dagat at bundok, they say sa dagat at bundok. There is that violation of the rhythmic prosody. Okay. Next slide, please. So music and language, studies also highlighted the differences. No? Patients, because there were some patients who were studied about with Broca's aphasia. Are you familiar with this one? I think it's a kind of a person who has the insufficient ability to create words, something like that. So show connection between difficulties in understanding the complex sentences and musical tasks. However, cases of individual with congenital amusia. So this is also these are students who are called tone deaf, no? But normal language abilities, or those with aphasia, but intact musical perception, indicate separateness in brain mechanism. Remember that we have the right brain and then we have the left brain. So this is a kind of a science experiment, no, about the connection between the language and music. So it suggested that activation within these areas may involve different neural networks for music and language processing. So, next slide, please. So, studies of music and language also, a comparison is gaining more attention from the researchers. Like, both music and language share similarities as human universals, because music is the universal language of the soul. And just for your information, Italian language is the universal language for music, because there are a lot of Italian terms associated with music. Now, both music and language share similarities as human universals, involving distinct elements organized in structured sentences. So, by studying them together, researchers can uncover how the brain processes complex sounds. Now, there is a study that explores syntax, suggesting that there is a common point where the way language and music handle structures intersect. This is why that's why I mentioned about the rhythmic prosody of the text, because I have a current study about how rhythmic prosody of the text has been observed in various hymns of the different hymns of the state universities in the Philippines, and I was able to find out some of those that this rhythmic prosody must be corrected to be able to, it must be aligned with how the accent is being produced when you recite a specific word. Next. So, music and language is emotional disconnections and connections. Next. So, music and language provide important context in which to understand the human auditory system. Music and language are both rooted in the human desire to connect with others, since sensory function is ultimately shaped by what biologically important to the organism. So auditory is really, really important. How you perceive, the process of auditory is very, very useful, specifically for the choirs who are singing the European languages, for instance, like the French, Spanish, German, and so on. That auditory system is very, very critical to learning a specific language, specifically when you're going to sing a specific language. Now, the human urge to communicate has been powerful driving force in the evolution of the auditory function and the way in which it can be changed by experience within an individual lifetime. Next slide, please. Okay, above all, are forms of human communications. So, the ability to extract meaning from sound requires that all aspects of the auditory system work together in harmony. If you are going to listen a specific text, and if you are going to provide a specific intonation or musical sound, the musical sound should correspond to the meaning of the text. Now, this context hopes to emphasize the highly interactive nature of the auditory system, as well as the depth of its integration with other sensory cognitive skills. Next slide, please. Okay, how it works. First, look at the origin of music and the language. Their structural characteristics and the function origins reveal about human relationship with the sound. So, as stated in the PowerPoint, this process is accompanied by focusing on the role of temporal structure in music and language. and how temporal patterns provide a framework for the information processing in the brain. The rhythm of language and the rhythm of music are very, very important. Thus, music and language are learned by emphasizing intersections between auditory system, the cognitive, and the emotion. Next slide. So the structure rooted in sound is that both the music and the language, they are both complex communication system. Why did I say complex communication system? Basic components are combined into higher order structures in accordance with rules. So whether music was an evolutionary precursor to language or merely a byproduct of cognitive facilities that develop to support language. Next. So the auditory system plays a unique role as the temporal processing expert in the nervous system. So in this case, this is fundamental aspect of the auditory processing and important for the perception of communicating or communication sound in both speech and music from the overarching rhythm and stress, the musical rhythm and the language stress. The mastery of both music and language depends upon rule-based learning. So this involves an ongoing process of perception, an ongoing process of prediction or feedback and correction. Like a comparison of grammar acquisition in human infants and non-human primates suggests that human learning mechanisms are distinctly tuned to complex predictive patterns because of the various contexts about intonation, the various contexts of rhythm, the various contexts of meaning, something like that. So they are quite complex. Next slide. So in my concluding statement, music and language are two sides of human communication coin. So while language is effective for semantically precise communication, the great strength of music lies in its facilitation of social bonding and shared emotions. Both systems of communication are derived from fundamental building blocks of sound, its inherent harmonic properties, and its temporal patterns. Thus, both are interwoven with their complementary elements. I think that concludes my presentation today. So, good morning and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please give great applause. Very interesting, isn't it? You're kind of articulating what we have been feeling or experiencing with music in our lives scientifically. Yeah, and I think, yeah, I do agree that music can recall our memory, even memory in our childhood, childhood memory, sad, happy moment. And you also highlighted about, what is it, melody and lyrics, and how it could be used in language learning. Okay, I'll invite questions from the audience in this room.
Actually, sir, I forgot to mention there had been researches about Mozart's effect. Have you heard of that Mozart's effect? Mozart is one of the greatest composers during the classical period. And then his music, his instrumental music, has been used for research how to increase a score of students in language, in math, and science. And most of them found out that it really helped to enhance the students' score in taking the examinations. So the process of the music, the Mozart's effect, is that they try to listen to the music as they review, regardless of your major, whether you are in the language, in science or mathematics, just the background of the music as you review your subject. And then when they took the examinations, there had a significant increase in the score.
All right. I'm inviting questions from audience in this room. You may reflect, connect it to your experiences of using. Prof. Marziolain, please, could you pass? All right. Wow.
Thank you very much.
for your presentation. And yeah, both of language and music are very similar, of course, and I really like the way you pointed it out and how it's a complex system. But can you give us an example of how you would use it, like, for example, to teach beginners English, or can you give us an example so I know how you can use music in your classroom?
Actually, yesterday I had this music and movement workshop in the other. What campus was that? Yesterday, yeah, I gave this kind of music and movement workshop. The first thing that I do is that to be able to teach children about music and language. For example, if you are going to introduce your name inside the classroom, just say, "I am Randy. I am like that. I am Beauty. I am Zain." But in my classroom, I used to include the rhythmic pattern and the intonation with the two note, sol, mi, something like that, with a combination of a sound. I am Randy. How are you today? What do you do? How are you? What's your name? Something like that. So that students could get involved. You are introducing the language as well as you are introducing the two most important intonation in musical element, like sol, mi, because children started from that two-note pattern. To be able for them to adopt this auditory ability, so that they will not be able to get how they call it, in tune singer. They become tuned singers in the future.
All right, I think it's clearly answered. Yeah, how we can connect music with language learning, melody and lyrics. Yeah, missing lyrics. All right. Next questions, please. Some of you might be teaching early childhood educations. Yeah. Implementation of music in language learning. From the Zoom, we got questions. And dealing with emotions. Yeah, we do agree that music builds atmosphere, emotions, and yeah. And from you presented, it shows direct and indirect impact of music. Could you please make more emphasis that when it deals with indirect impact, then it touches upon the emotional aspects first. That the study that you just mentioned emphasize more on direct or indirect impact of music into. Yeah.
Actually, in Hungary. It says in Hungary, in the music curriculum of Hungary, they says that music is the central part of the curricular program. Because, as what our great philosophers have mentioned, music like Aristotle and Plato, I'm always mentioning. There is an echo. I'm always mentioning Aristotle and Plato because they are from Columbia University, and John Dewey is from Columbia University. They said that, I don't know if you believe, but I completely believe in this statement by these philosophers. They say that music can mold character, that being so, it is an indispensable study for the young.
Okay, thank you very much. But because we are running out of time, unfortunately, we got to close this session. Thank you very much for enriching our perspectives on the use of music in language education. Thank you again. Give a great applause for Prof. Ibarra. Thank you very much. I'm not going to conclude what the keynote speakers have presented. I think you may draw conclusions, contextualize to your own, areas of work or your field or your professionals, careers. Yeah. Then I'd like to close this session by reciting Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thanks to Mr. Siliwani, PhD, for the assistant, and Professor Fulon Ibarra for the inspiring keynote speech. We would like to ask you to remain on stage for UICELL committee would like to present a token of appreciation to you. And we would like to invite Ms. Riku Sumaning CMPD, the chairwoman of the 7 UICELL, to come on stage and present the token to Professor Florante P. Ibarra.
We have come to break for lunch. Ladies and gentlemen, after lunch break, we encourage everyone head to the venue to rejoin us for the final presentation by the featured speaker for today's event. We also do not forget to remind you that filling out your attendance list is your own responsibility and will be one of the requirements for obtaining a certificate in the future. For the online and pre-recorded presenters, links for the attendance will be given 1 hour after the lunch break. For now, it's time to enjoy your lunch. Attendees are kindly invited to proceed to the food stalls. We hope you enjoy the lunch break. We'll start the next session at 12:30 p.m. In the meantime, lovely composition will be played as a sign that the program has not been resumed. And as Indonesian says, Selamat makan, bon appetit, please enjoy your lunch.